all right, so if you're Brock and you're sitting here and you haven't really made a lot of money and they're going to come to the table, presumably, like you play well through the end of the season, I mean, what's that look like? If you're Purdy and if you're the 49ers trying to assign value to Purdy, who has had some really great moments and has also had some really, like, I don't know, he might only be pretty good. Like, they say you can't overpay a quarterback. Y'all know I've been saying pay him for a long time, but like, I do think if you're the 49ers right now, maybe you got to be careful. What's it look like?
I mean, if you're his agent, you're saying I want $60 million plus $1 a season. You're saying I want him to be the highest paid player, and that's the economics of NFL agents right now are if you have a quarterback who is either inside the top 10 or young enough and projecting to be inside the top 10, you say, when we sign the deal, we want him to be the highest paid player in the NFL. That's what will happen with Brock Purdy. Now, will the 49ers be inclined to give him that kind of a deal? Let's see how the season finishes. I think if Brock Purdy goes on a run, if he shows down the stretch, okay, you know what? I can raise the level of the players around me. I can find some consistency. We can get some traction, get back into the playoffs. We can once again be a threat. Coming into the season, we thought, okay, hey, that's still a Super Bowl level team. If they can showcase that down the stretch and Brock Purdy is the centerpiece of that, he's going to be the highest paid player in the NFL when he does that extension. But that's a lot on his plate right now. And I would argue that up until this point, he has not shown that he can have that kind of a sustained run when other parts of the team badly need him to be the guy who takes wrong and makes it right. And by the way,
which is going to happen if he makes $60 million a year, which I talked about like 8 weeks ago. And you guys all were like, oh my God, how could you dare say that about Brock Purdy? But go on, Charles, go ahead.
I never said, I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that. Clearly was the other show. That was the muffin show, because I was not the one saying.
I was the one saying paying Brock Purdy 50. I was saying 55 at the time. Paying him $55 million a year is a slippery slope, because all of a sudden you can't pay. You're not going to have George Kittle and Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel and all these guys like Christian McCaffrey.
About that, but that's not what quarterbacks get paid on, Frank. The teams aren't out there going, well, okay, we can't pay him this because we're not going to have this guy and that guy. That's not how NFL agents aren't sitting there going, well, listen, I know
at some point your question
should work that way.
Can you make a championship team with Brock Purdy making $55 million a year? That should be the question they're asking.
No, but
Trevor
what
Lawrence
the
gotten the deal he got? No.
But the other question is, can you build a championship team with Trey Lance as your quarterback? Like,
but it doesn't have to be Trey Lance. It could be like it could be Jimmy Garoppolo. Could you do it, Jimmy Garoppolo? Yeah, they really could if they covered Jet Chip Wasp.
And how did they try and replace Jimmy Garoppolo? They tried to replace him with Trey Lance, and they were wrong. Like, you can't just plug anybody in.
No, you can't just plug anybody. But you could plug a lot of guys in. Kyle Shanahan can plug a lot of guys in and have success. Like,
I mean,
Kyle Shanahan's
success
really,
to that
really good.
level. To success to that, like, are we really saying that the business model for the 49ers is to simply press reset at the quarterback every 3 or 4 years and bank that they can do what no other team in sports can?
I think they're the one team that could.
Because I think we're giving way too much benefit of the doubt to Kyle Shanahan. Like, I think it's amazing and incredible that they found a quarterback at the end of the draft. Just like it's
Brock
amazing and
Kyle.
incredible.
Brock saved Kyle.
It was huge.
He did. Brock saved Kyle. It's a reality. Like, he covered for the massive organizational mistake that you can't make, which was drafting Trey Lance. And they honestly, they lucked into Brock Purdy. It was the last pick in the draft. You can't tell me that was skill. It wasn't a skill pick at that stage.
Just like Brady. Brady was
just like Brady. Was not a
and they passed up Brady like 6 times.
Pick.
Like,
it's not a skill pick in the 6th round.
And look, I know Brady won Super Bowls out of the gate, and that makes this a different conversation. But can we imagine going back to the Patriots? Like, there were Patriots fans that loudly believed the minute Brady was out the door, well, we found Brady, we'll just find the next Brady. I'm not saying Purdy's anywhere near Brady, but I'm saying finding the next Purdy is a hell of a lot more difficult for San Francisco than anyone wants to give it credit for. I believe they got lucky, and they're good. A combination of those two things. I don't think you can bank your future in a franchise on that. So, like, if I got to pay him $55 million to make sure that I don't accidentally get another Trey Lance, same organization scouted and decided they wanted Trey Lance. They got it that wrong. So am I going to bet that I'm going to get it that wrong again, or that I'm not going to get it that wrong? I'll take the sure thing all day, every day.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And I will reiterate, the plan right now is to extend him. That's it. It hasn't changed.
I think they will. Everybody does. Everybody extends a quarterback.
But there's a lot of football left to be played. And
they got a tough schedule. You want to get on me about tough schedules? Look at San Francisco.
Well, and
I don't think they're making the playoffs, guys.
It's reported that he missed half the practice yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. That he was throwing. He might have a shoulder problem now. There's other things that could play into this down the stretch. And look, I'll say, let's say he does have a shoulder issue. Well, probably off the bat, I'm not paying him after, because I'm going, okay, well, now that's twice he's had issues, right, with his throwing arm. I'm going to go ahead and wait. I think the most likely scenario, if he does not play well down the stretch, is that San Francisco goes, we're going to cool the extension talk a little bit, unless there is a really favorable deal that we can get done, which I would say is probably in the low 50s, like a Jared Goff type of deal. I think if that deal presents itself and there's not like really any real arm problem in terms of an injury, I think if that deal presents itself, I think the 49ers go, let's go ahead and do that, because that's a good deal in our favor right now. But they're definitely not doing a let's reset the market quarterback deal with him if he does not play well down the stretch. I still look at this situation and I think we are heading a little more toward the Niners saying, we got another year. Let's just take another year and measure it. And if he plays gangbusters, it'll just be like Dak. We'll have to franchise tag him. We'll pay through the nose. And that's
Wouldn't
how
he just hold out at that point? Wouldn't, if the 49ers are like, let's cool it for a year. If you're Brock Purdy making, I don't even know what he's
so next year, his salary cap number. Next year's salary cap number is 1.1. His career earnings so far.
I'm like, I am not playing for you guys.
Absolutely.
Like,
he could
no way in heck.
His career earnings is $2.8 million.
Are
I'm 2.8. All he's made.
Franchise I would do that with.
What are you talking about? They've each of the last 2 years they've had a guy hold out and get the bag. Like, they're the franchise to do that with. Like, I'm going to hold out and get my money, just like Nick Bosa, just like Brandon Ayuk did.
Yeah,
but there's a way I'm playing for 1.1.
I don't know, man.
1.1.
Nah, I don't. Kyle and quarterbacks, it's different. I'm just telling you, I don't that guy and his relationship to that roster. There are 52 relationships, and then there's the starting quarterback. Like for Kyle, I truly believe that. Mm-hmm. I think the way someone explained to me when I was spitballing some ideas about like who could end up with the Rams, and I was talking to somebody in the Rams organization, and he was like ticking people off the list because he's like, no way, like that, like Sean McVay, that guy would drive Sean McVay nuts, and Sean would drive that guy nuts. There's no way, there's no survivability in that relationship. I think Kyle is that kind of guy, which also, by the way, I think kind of plays in favor for Brock Purdy, because he has shown he's got the ability to deal with Kyle in that way. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo did. I think Jimmy Garoppolo had there was a problem there where Jimmy Garoppolo was not the kind of guy who was going to take criticism, be fiery, give it back to Kyle when people weren't, looking. I think Brock is that kind of guy. I think he is more of a fighter, and that plays into the relationship working. But I don't look at this like any other situation in terms of who else got extensions and who held out and who gets babied. I think quarterback is just a different animal when it comes to Kyle Shanahan, like it is for a couple of, Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton's quarterbacks, that's a different relationship he has than any other player on the roster. Sure. Sean McVay, it's a different relationship than any other one he has on the roster. I think there are a couple of guys out there who can draw it up and who are good play callers, and these so-called geniuses who are extremely hard on the quarterbacks that they play with. I mean, look at what happened with McVay and Goff. When McVay decided Goff couldn't do it anymore, that was it. It was done. Goff was toast. It was over. It can happen with Kyle.